earlier this week, it was posted via Twitter, via Juggle Rob, also known as Robin Harn, on the Twitters. He is the head person of the Big House, which is one of the biggest Smash tournaments that we get. So, he's the head organizer at the Big House for Super Smash Brothers tournament. Posted this: Big House this year and beyond. Hi everyone, I've received a lot of questions on Big House this year, and I want to provide a status update. I have a lot of thoughts to share, and my only request is that you read this completely to the end and do not pass along any TLDR. Summary version. A lot of it's personal and multi-layered, and I really struggle to find the right balance of sharing honest internal dialogue and also keeping it concise enough for the general public. For context, I'm Robin Harn, and I've been the head organizer of Big House since its inception in 2011. The event has taken place in October for each installment, minus the 2 COVID years, and ever since I started hosting the Big House, my reasons for doing it largely remained the same. Wanted to challenge myself as a project manager who has visibility on every part of an org chart, logistics, marketing, finances, people management, etc. I have an entrepreneurial itch to host a large-scale event and to find a way to put all the necessary pieces together. I want to fulfill a creative vision for how an event can look, feel, and be experienced, and have the resources to achieve that vision. And I feel a duty to raise and sustain the quality of events to empower future generations of attendees to enjoy a great experience at them. These reasons have always been in harmony with the following assumptions in my ability to host events. I have enough time over the summer and fall to dedicate towards the Big House. I feel I can give it 100% of my energy and effort towards making the current year's events the best possible product it can be. I have the financial stability in my personal life to be able to cover any potential losses. And I feel the desire and hunger from the community, sponsors, and partners to support the event with the resources it needs. Over the past year, some of these assumptions have shifted. I'll go through them one by one. Time, energy, and effort. I've recently been hired as a varsity volleyball head coach at a high school near and dear to me in Michigan. I absolutely love doing it, and it satisfies a lot of the challenges I enjoy. If you replace the word event with volleyball program in my original list of reasons I host Big House, you'll find that my motivations and fulfillments are similar for each. This role is not only coaching, but also managing the entire high school program in all aspects, such as hiring the assistant coaches, budgeting, fundraising, coordinations, running youth camps, etc., etc. Previously, I had only coached club volleyball, which runs in December through June, and conveniently allowed me to focus on the Big House in the summer and the fall. But now I've stepped into managing an entire high school program, and the volleyball season runs from August through October. Given that it overlaps with the traditional peak of Big House planning season, I won't be able to give another project 100% of my energy during those months. If you know anything about me, you know I approach every project I take with the intent to make it the absolute best thing possible, which requires all my energy and effort. This year, that means putting it towards my new role in leading a volleyball program. Financial stability. As much as I love my new role leading a high school program, it's not a full-time job at the end of the day, and I currently don't have the financial stability of a full-time job as a buffer. My last full-time job ended in extremely disappointing fashion. Hey, I feel that. Extremely disappointing fashion, and I honestly... Oh. Okay, this is kind of hitting me pretty close to home here. My last full-time job ended in extremely disappointing fashion, and I honestly lost faith in certain industries and positions of leadership in that process. Same. So I've been living off of personal savings and random gigs for the past few months, also same, in an effort to find aspiration with a possible career pivot. But I want that to be organic and not force myself into a new opportunity if it isn't the right fit for me. I don't know how much time this will take, but I feel very strongly that I have to let it naturally play out. Without this buffer in my personal life, I don't feel it's responsible to take on hosting a large-scale event that has almost always cut it close in terms of breaking even financially. Community and partner support. With each recent installment of the Big House, it's become increasingly difficult to find sponsors and partners willing to financially back the event, and our general attendance has hit a plateau of around 3,000 people. The combination of these factors make it increasingly difficult to host a large-scale event at the creative level I want. When organizations like Panda, Beyond the Summit, and Golden Guardians go away, it has unfortunate ripple effects on events like Big House. Past 2 years, my staff and I dug deep to put in extra hours during planning season to still find ways to make it work. And against all odds, we produced what we believe to be the two best big house events ever, creatively, logistically. But when the effort and stress level of making it work keep increasing while the big picture financial feasibility keeps decreasing, eventually it reaches a breaking point where we can't keep pace with these two trends, drifting in different directions. All this to say, as of right now, Big House is on an indefinite hiatus. The door is open for the event to come back in the future, but it would require a shifting of several reasons and or assumptions I listed above. That could mean it happens at a different time of year, or it's led by a different head organizer, or it's more financially feasible given some combination of increased partner support or shifting community expectations. I think if two of those three factors were to change, then Big House would be in a good position to return. But I just want to make it clear that there are a lot of administrative and organizational questions that have to be answered before we even entertain that possibility. And personally, I'm not actively working on answering those questions at the moment. You might be asking why someone else can't just jump in and take over in my absence this year. I think that's a fair question and possibly down the line, but I want everyone to understand it's not as simple on short notice. Venues of large-scale events require months or even years of lead time to secure them, often with tens of thousands of dollars in deposits, or multiple years of locked-in contracts for both venue space and surrounding hotel room blocks. Someone has to take on that carried expense and risk. For example, if the head TO makes an executive decision to upgrade a part of the venue for an extra cost, then that head TO is financially responsible for any consequences of that decision. For the past 11 Big House installments, I've been taking on that risk because I've had the bandwidth to feel like I can control my own destiny and making the event great enough to overcome that risk. But for the reasons and shifting assumptions I laid out above, I won't be able to do it this year, and it's unclear who, if anyone, would be willing to step into that role at the moment. TOing events is still a passion project. I've never paid myself a salary for hosting events. Instead, always reinvesting it towards future events and as great as possible for attendees. The truth is, there are way more expenses now than even 2 years ago, let alone 13 years ago when Big House first started. The community demands more, sometimes reasonably so, but certain constraints make it difficult for me to guide the Big House in a direction that satisfies both my creative wishes and the community's expectations. Streams and internet needs are the prime example. These expenses scale poorly at our venue because multiple stream broadcasts each bring their own costly addition of union labor shifts and in-house staging requirements. Internet is so obscenely expensive at the Cobo Center that it infamously caused a major company, Wizards of the Coast, to cancel their stream broadcast altogether for a Magic the Gathering Grand Prix Detroit a few years ago. Growing viewer expectations such as quad stream broadcast create a massive tension and on our ability to affordably spread out resources to the rest of the event. That's a very fair point. Our aforementioned venue, the Cobo Center, is quite frankly a huge pain to work with. We compete with the Detroit Auto Show and several other major companies for space, and often those clients have deep pockets to be able to put down deposits for multiple years and way ahead of time. Up to this point, I've been careful to not lock in the Big House for long periods of time with contracts because I want to respect how quickly the gaming landscape evolves and might steer us in a different direction that would require a different venue. But sticking with one-year commitments has meant higher rental costs and more difficulty scheduling, which exacerbates the issues above. Man, this is I wish this was talked about more. But anyway, let's just finish this up and then we can discuss it. Our aforementioned venue, you might then be asking why Big House can't just downscale and find smaller venue. For me, it boils down to creative vision of what I want to do with a large scale event. And that still means we host it for the entire community at large in one very spacious 50 square foot. Sorry, man, this song is not it. Oh God. Okay, here we go. Anyway, why not scale it down to a smaller venue? Is essentially where we're at. For me, it boils down to creative vision and what I want to do with a large-scale event, and that it still means we host it for the entire community at large in one very spacious 50,000 square foot plus inclusive venue within walking distance of hotels and within 30 minutes of major airport. Unfortunately, no other venue in the Southeast Michigan area meet this criteria. Similar to a movie director who requires a minimum threshold of studio budget and community buzz to take on a film within his or her creative vision, I'm personally only interested in taking on the creative challenge of hosting events above a certain level of grandeur. And I can't see myself making sacrifices to what we've come to expect creatively and aesthetically at a Big House by downscaling the overall scope of it. I still love the game and the community. I'm incredibly grateful for the support from our thousands of attendees and our amazing staff and volunteers over the years. And I wish I could host Big House this year. I just hope everyone can understand life happens, assumptions shift, landscapes evolve. I do this at the pleasure of the community. And if the desire and hunger is truly there for future installments of Big House, then please make that known politely and constructively. In the meantime, thank you. Thank your longtime TOs and practice gratitude for everyone behind the scenes who dedicates time and effort to making experiences great at any event you attend. So, for those of you that are just joining us now, this is the statement from Robin Harn, who goes by Juggle Rob on Twitter, the big head organizer of the Big House, announcing that the Big House is going on a bit of an indefinite hiatus because of Robin's life changing, and because of the landscape of hosting events changing as well. And honestly, this is such a good thing to post, right? Because I think, especially in recent years, with the complications of the pandemic and just how crazy things have become with like gathering in a crowd since 2019, right? And even back then, like there was a lot of like huge scaling things happening, right? With that big shift from like having the new anxiety of like gathering in groups and worrying about, you know, the pandemic and this disease that's been kind of like fucking up the world for all of us. That's complicated a lot. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we had Javi on the show, on the talk show, I think last year at some point, or maybe 2 years ago, where Steve and I got to chat with him a little bit about, you know, what like the differences between running Texas Showdown now as opposed to pre-pandemic. And according to Javi, and I'm assuming every event has this, just the cost for security has tripled, right? Because now you have to have, granted now not so much, right? Because we're a little bit past the pandemic. But like just the cost of having security to make like to try to check people's vaccine cards, or like just making sure people wear masks, etc., etc. Just like having just that alone is in itself like a gigantic addition to the cost. Mind you, now this cost also triples because of the risk of having things be in crowds, right? So hiring people is more expensive because of that inherited risk. Venues are now charging more, right? Like things are just ballooning out of control in the US specifically. And I think it's gonna come, this is like a little bit outside of my FGC purview, but I think like in general, it's gonna come to a breaking point where we're gonna have another like big crisis like we had in 2008, and it fucking sucks, right? Where, you know, us who have lived through now, I think it's gonna be our third economic depression, as it were, or recession, I guess. And like just watching the economy kind of crumble because of people making shitty decisions. People who can make decisions just make the wrong ones. So it's been tough in the US, man. And honestly seeing I think what pisses me off the most about this is, as a former teacher myself, for those of you that don't know, before I was in the FGC, before I even knew the FGC existed, I was a teacher. I was an assistant band director for a long time. And I also had a personal studio where I taught privately. So teaching is, I think, something so stupidly important. Something so absolutely stupidly important. And the fact that Robin is the manager for like this volleyball program for this high school is absolutely incredible, and I have absolutely nothing but respect for Robin. But I can already tell you, with him addressing the issues with income, and with him addressing the issues of having time, energy, and will of doing things, it's so unfortunate that in the US schools are treated so poorly, where, you know, if you're a teacher, you have to do it because you love it. You can't do it for any other reason. Mostly because in a lot of places, there's no way for you to like actually make a living and teach, right? Growing up, one of my music teachers had a side job as a bartender after school, right? Like, I don't think there's anywhere else in the world where you see the need for teachers to have side gigs, right, outside of school. I don't think that should even be a thing. So the fact that schools are supported so poorly in this country, kind of, I think, as soon as I saw it was a high school, like he got a high school job, I kind of assumed that this was going to be like the issues, right? Where a lot of time and effort has to be dedicated towards keeping that program up, and a lot of money is no longer seen because you're a high school teacher. So, but like I said, Robin, if you ever see this, man, I have nothing for respect to you for you as a former professor or as a former teacher myself. So, nothing but love, man. And you know, it seems like you really want to do right by those kids, and it seems like this program is going to be all the better for it. So, congrats to you. And when it comes to Big House, you know, so something that I've been kind of thinking a lot about recently is like, when is it appropriate to close the book on something, right? Like, and I think about that a lot with Best of 5, right? Where it's like, is it appropriate for me to just close the book on Best of 5 and end it and then move on to something else? And I bring this up just to say there's nothing wrong with, you know, having seen something live its lifetime and then move on from it, right? So the foresight of seeing this is going to be an issue and then taking the step back and making the decision to not run it because it will be worse off is very, very important. And I think it's something that we all need to appreciate, because that shit's hard. That shit's hard. Also, Shayon, good to see you, man. Someone has to pay for Bezos and Musk's tax evasion. Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough, dude. It's rough. But all this to say, look, a loss of an event for fighting games is always a bad thing, right? It's always a bad thing. But it happens, especially now where, like, the world has been changing and will continue to change for the next couple of years because we're in a new like way of life, whether we want to believe it or not. So I think this just shows that, you know, TOing, like running a tournament, is something that is so stupidly difficult and not well appreciated enough. And the fact that Robin was so eloquent in highlighting like exactly what the issues are and what he was worried about, kind of gives us a really good insight into like what it takes to run a tournament and what it takes to run a tournament correctly, right? So, thanks to Robin, man. Thanks to Robin. Best of luck. I hope the high school stuff works out, and I mean that genuinely, because I know it's hard, but it can be very fulfilling. So, best wishes. Best wishes.